Before we get into the review, I wanted to provide a disclaimer. I am just a regular person, not a current or ex-athlete or mega influencer. I was not paid for this review, and I purchased this cold plunge with my own money. If you're watching this video, you're probably like me in that you're undecided about what cold plunge is right for you. The market is extremely saturated with everything from inflatables, high-end acrylic tubs, coolers, and barrels. These range from $100 to over $10,000. I spent way too many hours trying to decide which one was right for me. In the end, this was the criteria I settled on to make my decision. Number 1, can I fit? I'm not a huge person, but I'm also not small. I'm 5'10", 220 pounds with relatively wide shoulders. I didn't want to be crammed into something too small, which would make me feel uncomfortable. Number 2, it had to come with a chiller. I first got into cold plunging by using my bathtub and freezing these enormous ice blocks using molds that I got on Amazon. This worked for a while, but as most of us realize, dealing with ice is a huge pain. Number 3, temperature retention. I needed something that was battle tested and proven to hold its temperature regardless of the weather. One of my main reasons for this was to prevent a chiller from constantly having to run to keep the tub at temperature. Number 4, price point. I didn't feel like dropping a tremendous amount of money on a cold plunge was something that I wanted to do. So finding something that hit all my checkpoints at a price point I was comfortable with was important. Let's start out with the business side of things. SISU Plunge is a privately held small business. The 2 owners in the company are based out of Austin, Texas. When I started researching the website, I had a few questions. So I clicked on the chat feature and immediately started asking all my questions. My questions were answered, and the person I was speaking with introduced themselves as one of the owners. He even went so far as to provide me with his cell phone number in case I had any more questions. This was a huge mistake. Over the next week or so, I had many more questions about the tub, chiller, maintenance. You name it, I asked it. This level of customer service was super appealing to me. If you spend any time researching cold plunges on Reddit, I'm sure you've read some of the horror stories people have encountered with companies that provide no support when things go wrong. I knew this would not be the case with these guys. The tub itself is the Grizzly 450, a massive cooler with tons of insulation in the body and lid. If you've been researching cold plunges, you've no doubt come across the Grizzly 400 or 450. I can easily fit in the tub by myself and fully submerge without an issue. Now let's get into the workhorse of the SISU Plunge. They went with an all-in-one chilling unit, meaning your chiller, pump, and sanitation is all housed under one container. The chiller itself is a 1 horsepower chiller. When I set up the plunge, it was 90 degrees outside, and the water coming out of the hose was 70 degrees. It was able to take 70-degree water down to 49 degrees in about 2.5 hours. The chiller also uses a 5-micron filter along with UV sanitation. When I spoke to the team at SISU Plunge, they told me the UV sanitation works extremely well at keeping the water clean. One last thing that I really liked about the chiller is that the filter is wrapped in a material to prevent sweating and condensation. The lines from the chiller to the tub are also wrapped in insulation to help with temperature control and sweating. When you're ready to connect the chiller to the tub, it's super easy. The inlet and outlet on both the tub and chiller are clearly marked with colors, so you can just easily match them, tighten, and you're good to go. I've been using the tub at 49 degrees, and every time I get in, the water is cold, crisp, and clean. During my research phase with the company, they did offer me a $300 discount code, and I asked them if it was okay if I passed that along in my review, and they agreed. I think with the discount code applied, it makes the SISU Plunge the best priced option out there using the Grizzly 450. So in the end, this setup checked the boxes of all my criteria and has been amazing so far. The only thing I did add on the setup was an adapter from Grizzly that allows me to connect a garden hose directly to the tub for easier draining. I hope this review helps anyone out there who's looking for an awesome cold plunge.